Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. We are honored once again to have two very special and unique guests here. Of course, a regular resident here, Major General Paul Vallely, and of course, General Thomas McInerney, who is a legend in his own right as well, have been gracious enough to join us for a very special podcast where we're going to be discussing a wide array of subjects, as always, ranging from geopolitical to financial, to get their very intellectual and learned insights on these critical matters of the day. If you're new to the podcast, as always, please do like, subscribe, and share so that others can gain in the knowledge that you are being afforded. As you know, we have a General Major Vallely, a two-star general who has served in a number of tours of duty, Fox News contributor, and of course, Mr. Thomas McInerney. You know him from his various insights as also a general and Fox News contributor, and has been on many different podcasts like this. And we are honored, as always, once again, to have both of you here. Thank you for your service on this fine day. How are you both doing?
Great, John. Thanks for having us.
It's an honor, believe me. The pleasure's all here. Okay, so gentlemen, first question, and either one of you can respond first. That's fine. We have to discuss, obviously, the gigantic elephant in the room, and I'm relating specifically to the riots in Los Angeles, which fortunately I am a good distance away from that, thankfully, permeating now throughout the country. There is a movement, I'm sure you're all aware, of a mass protest plan for this Saturday, June 14th, which not coincidentally is Flag Day as well as President Trump's birthday, and the military will rightly be celebrated as well. So the question, gentlemen, is how long were these false flag distraction events planned in advance? Who's funding them? And what is the real purpose of these riots?
Go ahead, John McInerney.
Well, they're funded with George Soros and other black money, probably cartel money, et cetera, the part of the Democratic Party. They're doing it deliberately. It's orchestrated. It's laid out. I believe this FBI will focus on it and will identify them. And their objective is to sow chaos, create problems, to make people think that the Trump administration is operating outside the Constitution, but it's doing exactly what the Constitution says, John. Mm-hmm. It's extremely important that people know that. It is organized. There is no question about it. They are trying to create chaos. And President Trump, by moving initially the National Guard and now the Marines, a battalion of Marines from Pendleton into the area, is doing the right thing. We have a governor and a mayor that are sympathetic, obviously, to left-wing communist causes, particularly the mayor. Mm-hmm. It's all part of this, goes back to the 2020 election when they stole the election, goes back to the Russian hoax when they tried to frame President Trump, it goes back to the two impeachment on President Trump, goes back to the four indictments. All of this is coordinated and run by the same people that General Vallely and I have been writing about so much. Over to you now, Paul.
Well, thank you, General McInerney. From the intelligence reports we're getting, there's 4 to 6 cities coming up in the next 2 weeks that have been planned to wreak chaos within those cities and communities. General McInerney is absolutely right. These are funded. I would hope now that with interrogations of some of these that have been arrested, that they will interrogate them to release information or find out where the money's coming from, whether it's cash through their bank accounts, deposits, or whatever. But trace that money back up, and if it goes back to George Soros and his organizations, then they need to be indicted and arrested. So always, as John McInerney and I say, trace the money, find out where the money's coming from, and we'll end this thing very quickly. But what really upsets me is to see all these Mexican flags and other type of flags at these demonstrations. And as President Trump said this morning, he learned a lesson from his first term of the Minneapolis riots, when the governor up there would not call in the National Guard, would not use the National Guard. He let the city totally burn, businesses and so on. And President Trump said that's not going to happen on my watch during this administration. Now, Gavin Newsom made an outlandish statement that said the president needed permission from the governor to use state National Guard forces. That's not true. The president has the right to federalize the Guard units, whether they be air or Army, and to utilize those for federal purposes. Keep in mind, the National Guard is funded by federal money. And from that standpoint, the president has all the right to bring in even the active duty forces where necessary to quell riots. And what they are very particular about is the arrest authority. What the Guard and active forces do, they'll turn that individual over, for example, is creating chaos. They'll turn it over to a policeman and they'll actually make the arrest and take them off to jail. That's the way it's supposed to work. But President Trump's right. You got to be proactive now. And we've got to stop this insurrection in the United States once and for all. We've got to outlaw and find out who's behind these groups and indict them and arrest them.
Couldn't agree more. And I also agree with you, Major General, that putting those Mexican flags is a complete slap in the face to America and the allegiance that we have afforded people. You'll forgive me for my sophomoric humor, but here in California, we deem him Gavin useless, and that's being the polite version. Do you think that he'll be arrested in this?
Well, I don't think they will. Tom Homan certainly could do it because he's violating the laws and bypassing the laws of the country. Certainly, nobody's above the law, as they say. And if you're violating the law, not enforcing the law, I've written 2 or 3 articles on that subject. The first one was about 3 years ago. Why aren't they arresting these judges, district attorneys, who are obfuscating the laws of the country? And again, not above the law. And if they're taking in criminals and releasing them back out to the society and not making sure that they're sentenced to jail or whatever has to be done with this criminal activity they've created. So that's where I stand on it.
Yeah. General McInerney, thoughts?
I concur what General Vallely said on it. Now, if he crosses the line, I believe they might arrest him. And I think they've got to watch it very closely. Yeah. They would like to be arrested for some issue that wasn't as meaningful. But if they cross the line, and if they do some things like that judge in Wisconsin did, aided and abetted illegal aliens, then he should be held accountable. And that's the important thing, is we must.
Tom, you're right. Joe McInerney's right. Tom, you said the right words there. I meant to mention that. Aid and abetting the enemy or aiding and abetting criminal activity is a violation of the law. So I'm glad you brought that up. Sorry to interrupt you on that, but that was a good point.
Oh, no. I'm just here to listen. I
meant Joe McInerney. I interrupted him.
I know, and I'm glad you did, because it's very important that the American people understand where these political leaders can violate the law, and aiding and abetting is a clear violation of the law.
That's right.
Thank you, generals. That's really important. Thank you for sharing that as well. It's before we move to the next question, it's sort of an aside, but you both have had the tenured experience to be able to look behind the proverbial curtain, what we civilians cannot see. And I thought it was interesting to note President Trump last week made a very telling comment. He tends to, as you know, sort of slowly and systematically leak out truths, for the public to see, or breadcrumbs, if you will. And he mentioned that Joe Biden was a robotic clone, and he was actually taken out in 2018. And there seems to be information out there online surfacing showing registry records of his passing. Is there anything that either one of you can offer on that?
Go ahead, Tom.
No, I don't have anything to offer on it. Paul, go ahead.
Well, I really don't either. They're still investigating, and we'll see. Have to see what they come up with. But once trying to think of the congressman's name, Comer, is it?
Oh, James Comer.
Yeah, I think he's heading up the congressional investigation into that, and certainly they're going to find out a lot of things. And in particular, if you would go to the auto pen thing if you want to, but I mean, if you don't have a real person signing the laws of the country, then it's fraudulent, in my opinion. I mean, you can send out general letters of interest from the White House and use an auto pen, but when it comes to policy and law, you can't do that.
Mhm. That's a really good point. Thank you. Thank you, Major General. Appreciate that. The next question is, we see the narrative of the ever-present Russian-Ukrainian conflict continuing overseas. It's obvious this event is being timed for effect in terms of a resolution with Russia, it seems is very clear that they're in the driver's seat to win. What's really going on over there, and when do you both expect that we will see an announcement of Russia's inevitable victory and a true peace agreement being brokered by President Trump?
Well, I think that that's going to be a little harder than President Trump thought, and particularly when the Ukrainians struck the strategic bomber force the way they did a week ago. We have been very careful never to touch those strategic forces. And I do not think the Ukrainians made a smart move, and depending the depth of US involvement, because there had to be certainly NATO involvement, and we want to be extremely careful. We're trying to put President Putin in a position, I believe, where we're forcing him to continue this fight, which is insane. And the danger, once you start playing around, there were about 40 bombers or support aircraft that were destroyed in that. It was brilliantly done, but very dangerous because you're playing with the nuclear threshold. And so I think it just depends. It's going to take longer than President Trump wants to. As he's admitted, he may just have to watch and let him continue this carnage that's going on over there. And so that's to be determined. He's got to make a decision with Iran sooner, but there is a relationship with Iran and Russia and China that they're doing. And so that's all part of the equation that goes on. But we don't have the time. I believe General Vallely will endorse this. We don't have the time with Iran to play with them much longer. They will, in their Muslim thought of being shaheeds, martyrs, try to destroy Israel sooner than later. And that's why I say we don't have a lot of time. They're not going to give up the enriching the uranium. And I think that we're going to have to take them out and do it. The president was very strong about that today and yesterday. Paul, over to you.
Well, thank you, John McInerney. I think going back to Russia, Ukraine, the information I'm getting is Ukraine has lost the war on the ground. Okay. They're pulling young recruits out of cars to put into the armed forces. They're gone on the ground. So that's how they had to revert to what we call irregular warfare and actually paying these terrorist supporters there that they launched these drones inside Russia against those targets of bombers. And certainly we just wrote a letter, identified the individual who is responsible for seeding all of that connection inside Russia with the trucks back to what they call the Club K system, which are basically containers. You put in there a rocket or drones or whatever, lift the top off, and of course you're transporting that with an 18-wheeler with a truck, and of course you can position it anywhere down a highway, and out comes the drones. So I think right now you still have NATO, Starmer in UK, Macron in France, Meltz in Germany keep pushing Zelensky and his crowd in Kiev to continue the war. And President Trump basically said it's not our war, but we put $350 billion into this. and you Europeans keep pushing it, which rather than joining me and trying to come to some peaceful negotiated settlement there. And I think Zelensky and that crowd in Kiev keep pushing Putin. He may just try to take Kiev and settle it and take out the leadership there. That's a move that's there for him, and he may do it. I don't know. But and then back to the next issue on Iran. Iran is not going to allow inspectors in there. The Ayatollahs won't allow that. I have information from Cyrus Force Iran, which is a U.S.-based organization that has inroads inside Iran with retired military, that they already have a nuclear weapon using the Shahab missile as their launch vehicle, but they also are able to move those Shahabs inside of an 18-wheeler again, container, and move it to a port, put it inside the ship in a hold, move it across the Atlantic Ocean, open up the top of that hold, up pops the Shahab missile, shoots a nuclear weapon into New York or Miami or wherever. And so they have that technology now. They've had the Club K system for over 15 years that they got from Russia. Russia got it from us, according to some other sources I have, that we developed that with DARPA years ago, the ability to do that, but we never perfected it like the Russians did. But here's the other thing. You can take out the nuclear sites, but you still have the Ayatollahs in charge. And you got the population, the majority of the population in Iran wants to be free. They don't want to be ruled by the Ayatollahs anymore and holding them back. And of course, then you have Iran providing a tremendous amount of energy, gas, oil to China. And so they're a real factor. And I don't think Israel wants to do it on their own. They'll need our backup. But there's two things here. Now, how do you do away with the nuclear capability? But then what do you do with the Ayatollahs that are continuing to fund international terrorism with Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, for example? So that's sort of my view of both those pictures and issues.
Great. I think it was fabulous summation by both of you. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. That was a nice cross section because you kind of had a short and long range sort of, periphery on it. But that kind of leads me into a sub question for both of you. Do you think that on the backs of what you just said, Major General, do you think that Israel is going to intercept Iran and hit out their secret nuclear power plants and take them out preemptively?
Well, according to General McInerney, I've had an opportunity to visit Israel in past years, and the information I have through some Israeli sources still from the IDF that anyhow, let me go back to your question again. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. It just
I lost track.
No, it's fine because General McInerney was leading up to your point, was talking about how we don't have a lot of time because Iran's making their move. So I'm going to go ahead of it and say, is Israel going to intercept that and hit the nuclear power plants of Iran?
Oh, okay. I know the point I was going to try to make.
Sure.
I got was that Israel had set out about 70 targets inside Iran, and this is a couple of years old, and they probably updated the targets. But those targets were basically the port facilities, aircraft, airports are where they have their military aircraft, their rockets, their command and control for the IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard, barracks, and so on. And they broke those 70 targets down into 3 phases. In the first phase, the jets would go in and basically decapitate the leadership. The second, they would go in and eliminate the bases or the capabilities that they have on the ground or with rockets. And the third was to take out and basically kneecap their economic structure with their oil producing capabilities at the ports, which is on the Persian Gulf. So now whether they still have that plan in force, I don't know. General McInerney may have some other information on that, but that's all I have on it.
Well, I think the president and Netanyahu talked yesterday. It was a good call. The words were sent out. I think there's agreement that it looks like the Iranians are not going to accept or we're not going to accept their proposal to continue enriching uranium. And I think they're sending the signals that we're going to hit you. And so I think that the forces, we've already got our B-2s postured on Diego Garcia and out in the Indian Ocean, where they can come in stealthy and drop these 58,000-pound bombs that will penetrate. It's very important that we do it with a joint U.S.-Israeli force, because we can hit more targets, take out more targets, etc., with that combined force. And I know President Trump doesn't want to do this, because once you start it, then you get tied down in it. And but there's no way, as General Vallely and I know, the mullahs are going to give up. They have said they want to destroy the little Satan, which is Israel, and the big Satan. So we might just as well as face it and take them out. But we don't have much time. And when I'm talking weeks, we have to make this decision.
That's really great. Thank you, General McInerney. That both of you had great insight and gave confirmation to what I was getting from a faith and a intuition level, you might say, from the civilian side, that a lot of this stuff had to sort of circumvent this month, and General McInerney sort of confirmed that in a very real and measured way. So next question is, we have the Golden Dome, which you both know is wholly designed to protect America from future nuclear and other warfare attacks. Ultimately, however, this seems to be a bigger, more overarching purpose to this project. How long has this been in the works, and what other deeper intentions do you both believe the Golden Dome can possess?
Well, the Golden Dome started out under Reagan in Star Wars.
Yeah.
We looked at it. We almost funded it. We compensated with the Russians with mutual assured destruction, and we decided not to. I think with all the activity that has happened in missiles today, with the Houthis, what they've done, and all the other missile deliveries that the Israelis have been receptive of, the president has finally decided we need to do this. And it's been in the making, except we've got better technology today. We've got a lot more missiles airborne and satellites that can detect these missiles being launched on us. And I believe President Trump is doing the right thing to have a capability. We have a limited capability right now in Alaska. But that doesn't stop ships, as General Vallely was talking about, with these Club K missiles and this type thing. So I think President Trump is doing the right thing with the modern, latest technology, artificial intelligence, et cetera, is that we must take this issue on.
Yeah, warfare has completely changed from World War II, when it was land, sea, and air, and all of our strategies and tactics were developed over the decades based on that kind of warfare. But now that's expanded into cyber warfare, biological warfare, and putting a lot of the capability now up in space. I mean, the Chinese just tested a new mothership. It's a jet, basically, that's unmanned. And inside the body, they have all these hundreds of drones that can be directed by signals and high technology. Also, putting nuclear weapons in satellites and putting them up, where you have multiple nuclear weapons on these satellites that can be transmitted from the ground to detonate them over a certain areas. That satellite, say, goes over America, they could direct those nuclear weapons onto any sites within the continental United States. So this whole warfare has changed into, rather than 3 spaces of warfare, now we have 6 spaces of warfare. And then what we call in many cases, it's unrestricted warfare, which is not kinetic, but it's cyber, it's bio, whatever. And so that's the threat now. But when we look at all those external threats, John, I think Joe McInerney and I agree, our biggest threats are internal right now. We've got to thwart those threats that are internal. What we see going on with the leftist Democratic Party and with the riots and so on, the cartels still being involved, even though we've shut the border down, they're still feeding money into the cartel members that have already been in the United States but haven't been captured yet. And we know they're going to tax against our electrical grid system, our water points where we have all of the water that's disseminated in communities and towns. They can jeopardize that through chemicals and so on. We just saw the chemicals that were introduced by these two Chinese. I guess they were chemicals, or were they something else? They were in Michigan. You remember that story last week?
Yeah.
But that was against, I guess, farmland or agriculture. I don't remember right now. But a lot of that has been brought into the countries with these pre-positioned people who have come in. Over 200,000 Chinese have come into this country. Look what they've done in our university. So that's why I say we got to focus on primarily our internal threats and thwart all of those. And let's get back on track in America so our economy continue to grow and we can start educating our young people better than we have. All the changes with the Doge and getting rid of fraud and abuse. So the majority of the threats we have are internal, as far as I'm concerned. But we have to keep looking out to the external threats, no doubt about it.
Good point. Thank you, Major General. Thinking just a little bit in a larger or a longer sort of latitudinal aspect, with the Golden Dome being taken care of, as you said, General McInerney, about this is going back to the Reagan days in the 80s, Star Wars and whatnot. So this has been a long time coming. Now that it's here, do you both think it's a potentiality or a possibility that we might have to have borders within states to cross them over? Are we going to get to that point?
I don't see that as a problem. We have a domestic problem, as General Vallely was laying out so brilliantly. And that is our highest threat right now. And it's going on in Los Angeles. It's going on in other cities in the country. It's deliberate. So we have fundamentally the Democratic Party is a communist party now. It is an adversary of America. It has been that way since even before the 2020 election, when they did the Russian hoax and they tried to impeach President Trump and destroy his first administration. And people wonder why. They have become Marxists, and they had these Marxist ideologies, DEI, critical race theory, that they were instituting in our government, in our private sector. That has since changed. But those are Marxist ideologies that like to differentiate between peoples. You know, e pluribus unum is from many one. And that's always been our success, is to homogenize people. And we don't care what color your skin is, where your mommy and daddy sent you to school, who your mommy and daddy were, where you went to school. None of those things. It's a merit scholarship society. That's like football, basketball, baseball, the professionals. They don't care what color skin is, they care about performance. But it really started under Obama, and he's the leader behind all this. General Valley's got a great saying: when you import third nation people, you become a third nation. Words of that effect. And that's what they're trying to make us, is they don't want a superpower where the rest of the world looks at the United States like President Trump has got it now, all this investment coming in. And we are now becoming a symbol with our Constitution and everything, which we have since the end of World War One. But they have decided to change that. The alliance of the Democratic Party, Barack Hussein Obama, with the World Economic Forum, with the Chinese Communist Party. All those efforts have been combined. Trump is now going against them. And we're seeing those same elements that are creating this chaos in the LA right now. They'll be doing it in New York. Depends what happens on the parade this weekend in the United States for the president's birthday, as well as for the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. These are important symbols, and they're going to try to destroy them. And that's, as General Vallely articulated so well, that is our greatest threat. Now, we do have to attend to things like the Golden Dome, because technology has enabled not only intercontinental ballistic missiles or medium-range ballistic missiles from ships, but also these large number of drones. How do we counter those forces? And that's what we're looking at. But right now, and General Vallely and I, when we took the oath of office, I did 66 years ago. He did it 64 years ago this month, or almost this month, July. We did not think that the domestic threat would be our greatest threat. We grew up in the Cold War, but it has become the highest threat to this nation. And it's Americans that do not have the same vision of our Constitution that want to change that. And the California governor and the mayor out there have tried, by keeping the military out, what President Trump did when he nationalized the Guard, federalized it, is he sent a symbol right away. They are not arresting people. They are protecting U.S. government buildings, which were not protected in 2020. He's not letting that happen now. He has sent that signal. God bless him for doing it. And it's very important that all Americans understand that. ICE is going after criminals. And the Democrats brought 21 million, is the number the White House is using now, illegals into this country, or permitted them to stay here. People like the chap that in Colorado that was using the fire bombs, napalm,
Molotovs.
yeah, on Israelis that were celebrating.
Right.
So this is something that we cannot tolerate, and we must not. Over to you, General Vallely.
Well, just a couple points. The Democrats keep saying, well, by deporting all these people, we won't have people like the one Congresswoman said, wipe your butt. She uses other words, wipe your ass, if I can say it.
You can.
But the fact we won't have any farm workers, that's not true. They're all lies. We have had farm workers with worker permits come into this country for decades from Mexico. They even come up here where I am in Montana in the vineyards up here. And so there's a way legally to come in this country and work, and they've sent the money back home to Mexico or other countries, maybe in Central and South America. So that's all been in place. But these Democrats lie so much about everything and create such a fog out there that people are wondering what the hell's going on. And then you have this media where you have no investigative reporting going on for the most part, that they can't dig into issues and get some cognitive thinking, as I call it, going in to analyze what's going on, report on that. I don't know what the hell they're teaching these kids in journalism school, but certainly they've been led down the wrong road on how to do investigative journalism for sure. So we're fighting that crowd out there as well. But I mean, these these blue states, the leadership, this Waltz. I mean, what an idiot this guy is, and and persecuting the white males, as if we're guilty of everything in the world. If you're a white male,
Yeah.
and these young white men are starting to stand up again, and but we've got a ways to go. But I'm very confident our young people are getting a little smarter now, seeing what's going on, all the lies that have occurred about America and our society. Yeah, we're not perfect, but we try to have a more perfect union, as they call it.
Absolutely. Wonderfully put by both of you. And I've been saying for quite a while in my circle, Major General Valley, that the white Christian conservative male has been on the endangered species list as far as they're concerned under attack. And
Yeah.
we do, that's all a division agenda, and we do need to squelch that. And as you said, come back and synergize, as General McInerney said, based on merit and performance, not a bunch
Right.
of outliers that don't matter. And I'm also glad you brought up Major General Valley, the media, because actually was the next segue question I had for you both. And that is, it seems that more and more people are waking up and turning off and tuning out the legacy media or the mainstream media. People in general know that something's wrong, but they haven't quite found the root source of the problem. Is this something that you're both seeing as an emerging trend? And does this offer you both encouragement for the future in terms of a more awake and aware patriotic movement for the future of America?
Good.
Go ahead.
Okay, let me go ahead. Well, yeah, we do see as far as the journalism reporting, they see into that. But I think we also have an enlightenment. And go back to another point that General McInerney we made in our book, America's Endgame for the 21st Century, which is, by the way, you can get that on the standupamericaus.org website. You might be so kind to show our website if you can at some point. But we put in there, America for the 21st century, we've got to have a spiritual awakening. We've got to go back to trustworthiness, okay, honesty, integrity, and stop the lies that are being laid on the American people all the time. I mean, how can these Democrats get up and lie about this? Schumer got up there and said all the people that we're killing now because they're going to cut Medicare or will kill. Uh, and all they want to do with Medicare and these government programs is eliminate fraud and abuse. But they continue to lie, and so there's not going to be any awakening from these people. I just don't see it happening. I think they're driven by the devil and Satan and so on, but they're very bad people. That's all I'll say about that. So we've got a lot to work on. But I understand Christianity's coming back. A lot of our young people are going back to church again, and that's very important compared to Europe, where they're sort of lost over there. They say UK, the United Kingdom, is done with. Their major cities are all controlled by Islamists. And General McInerney has said Islam is not a religion, it's an ideology. The word love isn't even in the Quran, but killing Christians and Jews is in there. And when people realize in Dearborn, Michigan, where they're ruled by these Islamists, these radicals, where they even have police. Dearborn, Michigan, for God's sakes, the home of Ford Motor Company. And you see a proliferation of that in the UK and in France. In France, I've been to the no-go zones there. They're all controlled by these radicals that have come out of the Middle East. And the police won't even go in there. Can't even pick up garbage. If you go on the subways now in Paris, they're filthy, unbelievable. And Paris used to clean itself every morning. If you were in Paris, you'd see these machines coming out and water spraying the streets, collecting all the whatever from the night before. And it smelled good in the morning, like perfume almost, if you woke up there. But not anymore. It's dirty and filthy. But they're controlling the governments now in Belgium, other places. And thank God we've got a couple really great leaders in Europe. Only two I can identify right now, and that's Moroni out of Italy and Orban out of Hungary. And these two leaders should be ruling the European Union, in my opinion, if that's even going to continue to exist.
Exactly. Yes, yes, yes. And I do think you're right, Major General. We're seeing more of a concerted effort towards God, faith, and family. I even caught CNN making a mistake and telling the truth about how bad these riots are. So Trump and the Patriots must be getting to them in some way, a slow proliferation.
Right. Well, how about AT&T? Don't they own CNN?
Hmm,
What the hell are the CEOs, the people at American Telephone and Telegraph, AT&T, allowing that crap to go on the air?
propaganda.
And then MSNBC, that was funded right by Gates, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep,
Microsoft. Yeah.
yep. That's right. That's a good
And then
point.
you got Disney. They own. Does Disney own ABC? I
They
think
Yeah.
do.
so. Yeah.
ESPN. Mhm.
So you got the responsibility that's being shrugged off by these corporate executives looking just to make money. And of course, we have Hollywood changing now. They have Angel Productions. I'm not sure you've ever heard of those, of that group, but they're making all of these good Christian movies
I
now,
have.
family movies, and they're taking over Hollywood and throwing out all of these left-wing liberal actors and actresses and producers.
Yep, that's correct. You're absolutely
So
right.
a lot of changes going on.
Long overdue, as you both, I'm sure, would concur. Thank you for that. As we switch gears here to the financial side, we have the big bit of beautiful bill coming up soon, along with the Genius Act for cryptos that's about to be passed. Both look to be happening sometime this month and will massively effectuate the economy as well as the removal of income, property, and even capital gains taxes. How exciting are these developments in your estimation, and what positive ramifications do you see them both having for the country economically and just the morale, respectively?
Well, the tax cut is absolutely vital. It's crucial, as is the monies going in for further expansion of the walls and the border and increasing ICE for what we've done. Now, they have eliminated $1.2 trillion, I believe it is. It's either 1.2 or 1.6, which more needs to be eliminated because since COVID came, we've added $2 trillion a year to our budget. Uh, but you can't get home runs all the time. It's vital that this bill be passed. And then they must continue to proceed along for more bill reductions and cutting down the expenditures. We're spending too much. President Trump has outlined a brilliant strategy of how he's bringing in more high-tech investment. He's gotten at least $6 trillion, I believe it is, that's going to be invested in the U.S. And all those dollars and programs that we outsource to China, Vietnam, and other countries, Thailand, we're bringing back the high-tech stuff. It's very important that we have a high-tech workforce. Artificial intelligence, he's funding that.
Mhm.
And all the things he's doing there to drive that. It's important that we get there first ahead of the Chinese. But so the bill, the bottom line is this bill must pass. It's not a perfect bill. There's no question we've got to drive this budget down. But historically, we've never taken this much money in a bill reduction. So again, let's not worry about a home run. Let's get a good double and then follow on with focus to drive the budget costs down in the United States, increase the wealth that he's doing with this uh, inversion of money coming back into the country by countries and creating the jobs here that will create the wealth that will have a job growth, how we can drive that uh, national debt down. It's very, very important.
Yeah, I think the only problem I have with the bill now, and I think they're going to do something, tweak it a little bit, but I'm just totally against increasing the debt limit to $2 to $4 trillion again. First of all, if they budget everything correctly, they don't need to do that because they'll be cutting waste and abuse and spending. Now, what Americans don't understand, even if the money's allocated, you don't have to spend it. Okay, I give you $100. That doesn't mean you have to spend it, right?
Right.
Okay, so you know they lose common sense in this whole thing. I can remember General McInerney when I got my first command, and I had my financial management guy come to me because we were doing the annual budget for DoD, and it was a certain amount. And he says, "Well, we got to ask for that, or we got to ask for more, or they won't give us any increase." I said, "Well, why can't we'll order so much money, but if we don't spend it, let's put it back." He said, "Oh no, we can't do that." General McInerney remembers that in the Pentagon. If you don't use it, you lose it, or something like that. But there wasn't any way to get credit for actually saying, "Okay, I'm going to give $5 million back in the Treasury because we don't need it this year." We thought we did, but that's the kind of thing that's been in the bureaucracy for years. So even though the money has to be allocated and approved, but like, for example, General McInerney, our shipbuilding, to put money back into shipbuilding again, commercial ships, military ships, that's part of the manufacturing General McInerney was talking about. And so this bill covers a lot of that. And again, it's got to be passed, but hopefully when the Senate gets it back to Congress and they go over it, they don't have to fool with this increasing the debt ceiling. That'd be my position, but
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Major General. And also to both of your points, as well as General McInerney, he's talked about the AI correctly. With the new AI system, where we know as the quantum financial system or the new digital asset-backed system with precious metals, going to have a lot more transparency, so that items like, sandbagging, if you will, financial, revenues it'll all be on the open. They won't be able to just play those games anymore. It's going to have to be a lot more level of transparency for the American people, which obviously is a good thing. While these events are occurring, and you kind of segued into it, General McInerney, so I'm going to play off that. Simultaneously, while this is happening, President Trump is working, as you know, as we speak, on day 2 today with the China trade agreement, which has ripple effects for Vietnam as well as several other Asian Pacific countries. BRICS is poised. You and I have talked about this before, General McInerney. BRICS is poised and ready to take full advantage of this. The old Fed dollar is being eviscerated in front of us, and this positions countries within the BRICS family to do exceedingly well in terms of a level playing field with their respective foreign currencies for each nation. Do you both see this in a similar fashion? If so, when do you see these various BRICS countries, sort of getting there or experiencing their breakout moment?
Go ahead, Paul.
well, the BRICS nations, I don't know whether there's 60, 70, or 80 now. It's a very effective new monetary financial group, and they've stated they don't want to kill the dollar, and I don't think they will or they can. The dollar is going to get stronger and stronger, but to go into the digital world now and bitcoins and all of that, so that's the thing in the future, along with AI, that we're looking to a whole different way of managing money now, different from what we've done in the past. So I see a big change happening there. BRICS will continue to be a viable financial group as far as I'm concerned, but they don't have to compete with the dollar. We can work together. And if we go to a global currency or some kind of a digital currency throughout, these are all things in the future where we may not have any kind of paper money anymore. It'll all be done online or with a card or something like that. But I do think we need to go back to the gold standard. I support President Trump on that, and get away from eliminate our debt. And we got to do that. We got to really focus on eliminating that debt and unnecessary wasteful spending. It's as simple as that. Hard to do, but simple from the standpoint it can be done.
Right.
Yeah, there's no question we've got to get rid of this debt. It's 36, almost 37 trillion. And it's very, very important that we address that, as General Vallely pointed out so well. I'm against digital currencies just because it enables a government to control what you and I do, how much you spend. They can put a stop on it. So that's why I think we need to keep the dollar and keep the national currencies. but there will be different opportunities like they have going on right now, these different currencies that have done very well. And that's because people have lost confidence. And these aren't government systems. These are systems set up by private enterprises, and they're very important to us because they have value. I too, like General Vallely, think we ought to go back on the gold standard. There's a reason they went off it, because it meant they could be frivolous, like they have exhibited so well. And that's why we've got this huge deficit problem facing us. The Democrats deliberately did this. They wanted to destroy, and they want to destroy the dollar because they do not want the United States to be a superpower. And they want to have the World Economic Forum and the CCP and other people doing their goals, which are entirely different. We represent goodness in the world. And it's very important that we maintain this superpower status and that we be fiscally responsible. And so, and I believe President Trump will do that. He had to get a grip on it, where we were going, and do some things quickly on how he's got this infusion of investment in the U.S. to build back our wealth and the jobs for Americans. Because if you don't have good jobs, progressive jobs, you cannot have wealth. And it's been very important what the United States has done for the world these last almost 100 years. Well, it has been 100 years since World War I, where we've played such an important role, but clearly since World War II. So,
well, and also, General McInerney, they've robbed our treasury.
Yes.
Putting all this global money into climate change and all of that. They don't mind robbing us just on the excessive tariffs like China's put on us over the years in the European Union. And we're tired of it. We're not going to be robbed anymore. And I mean, $350 billion into Ukraine, a lot of that went into real estate that the oligarchs and Zelensky bought. I mean, they don't mind robbing us at any time, but we've never had people stand up to it. Okay, yeah, here's a check here, here's a check here, and look at what they've done with the USAID, all the programs. They couldn't even track where the money went for a lot of these crazy programs. So anyhow,
That's deliberately to weaken us.
yeah, to weaken us, exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you both. We do need to go back to the gold standard. It was a terrible mistake that Kissinger and Nixon made back then. And there is a way, I agree with you both, to have a win-win position whereby the BRICS nations can have autonomy, break away from the old Fed dollar and go back to a U.S. Treasury note backed by actual assets to back the economy. There's a way to win, and I'm optimistic that that's going to happen. And this summer seems to be from what we can see, a very strong apex point for that to occur. Last question for you both for today, for time's sake. The new SEC chair, Paul Atkins, is heralding a new age for cryptos. You know, I all Major General Vallely have talked about this before, in terms of self-custody and making it decentralized, as well as centralization for cryptos and a new staple of the American financial diet. With cryptos such as XRP, and you mentioned Bitcoin leading the charge, how significant do you both see this being for the new golden age economy? And how does that factor into the BRICS currencies and new economy as a whole?
Well, I'll let General McInerney is probably better at economics than I am, but I mean, it's out there. I don't know what's going to happen, and it's it's beyond me. General McInerney are well beyond our mid 80s right now, so a lot of these things I don't quite understand or how they're going to work out. So I don't want to pretend to have that kind of cognitive knowledge of that, but these are all being developed. It's a whole new world, that's for sure. That's all I can say about it. We'll see what happens.
They're being developed, General Valley, because the government was not responsible. So the private sector put in Bitcoin, and they've got other currencies that they've come up with. that have created value.
Yeah.
And they've created immense value for people. And because people respect their value, whereas the value of the dollar has continued to erode, or as you pointed out, General Vallely, they had this thing about global warming and all that, and all the things we had to do. And you see, that was just to throw money to friends, and it devalued the dollar.
Yeah.
It's part of that 2 trillion that we're spending that we really didn't need to spend because of COVID. COVID, as we have pointed out, I think, John, was a deliberate biological attack by the Chinese on the United States. That is coming out. All these things that we've said previously on your program are starting to come out. And that was their strategic plan on how to devalue the US's superpower status. And if you devalue the dollar, you devalue the superpower status and the influence you have. President Trump, in his short 100 plus days in government, is turning this around. And the American people have got to understand this is no longer your mother and dad's Democratic Party. Their leadership are communists. They're Marxists. And we can no longer afford to have them. And what's going on today in Los Angeles, and will be going on in other cities coming up the next few days, is deliberate to take us down. And so they have now got to be looking at President Donald J. Trump and what he's doing. He is going to be the savior of America. I believe he's going to turn out to be the greatest president, even greater than George Washington, just through what he's done and what has been done to him. You look at the 4 indictments, the 2 impeachments, all these things, because they fear him. They fear him. Right. And they should, because he's bringing America back to what General Vallely and I grew up, and we took the oath of office 60 plus years ago to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We did not know then that our greatest threat, as General Vallely pointed out earlier, is domestic. And so every American must understand this is our Normandy, this is our Battle of the Bulge, this is our Iwo Jima. No. It is not fighting with weapons and in uniform. It is fighting for our Constitution. And General Vallely and Stand Up America US is playing a major role in that. And the books that we put out is laying this out. So America, beware.
Well, thank you, Tom. I was going to just end up by saying, emphasizing what John McInerney just said. Go to our website, standupamericaus.org. All of our writings, all of our interviews, our 6 books are on there that you can buy. We've connected all the dots of what's happened in America, who the traitors are, what they've done, but we offer solutions. So please get our books, buy them, make a donation to Stand Up America US. We survive on that. We've been around 20 years. We support the Constitution, the American people, but we need continued support, John. So we're not going to roll over now. We're going to continue to fight, even though General and I are, how do you say it, octogenarians or something like that. But anyhow, we're still out there fighting, but help us out at standupamericaus.org. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll be, as always, I'll promote that. We'll leave that in the description and direct people there. And yeah, it's a very erstwhile cause, to say the least. And it's such a privilege to have you both on, General McInerney and Major General Vallely. Thank you both for your service. Thank you for your time and attention, and also want to wish you an early happy Father's Day. And we'll look forward to hopefully talking with you again soon.
Thank you, John. Great show.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Take care.
Bye-bye.